This is the original Esports racing game. This is iRacing. Round number one of the Porsche Esports Supercup saw fantastic racing, a little bit of controversy, and, well, we had ourselves two different winners. We had ourselves Frederick Rasmussen in the sprint race, and then we had ourselves in the feature Joshua Rogers claiming victory. We moved ourselves, however, a little bit up I-65 and I-71 to Lexington, Ohio, to round number two of the championship. So, halfway between Canton, Ohio and the home of the Buckeyes, welcome to the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. Welcome to the second round of the Porsche Esports Supercup. Will Vincent here, Paul Smith and Connery Maddock will be taking you through your race in just a few moments' time. Well, we've got ourselves a total of 37 drivers here today. We're going to put the championship graphic up for you in just one moment's time. But it's worth noting that Joshua Rogers, by winning the feature race last time out at Barber Motorsports Park, he was able to get himself a cool $1,000. And here's the thing, Paul. Josh Rogers has won, or has been a part of the winning organisation for the last 3 Road World Championship races.
Yeah, it's an incredible achievement for Josh, and he's a nice guy as well. Had the pleasure of meeting him, and he's a very, very rapid driver, and he thoroughly deserved that race win last time out, of course, with that audacious move around the outside down into the chicane and hairpin. So definitely going to be interested to see how we go here this time out. But I'm really looking forward to this, because this is a proper old school track, is this?
It is. It measures about 2.25 miles in length. It's actually only been reconfigured once in its history. Of course, it plays host to a round of the NTT IndyCar Series. It's played host to the NASCAR and their national level series. It's hosted so many events. It's been a home for Porsche over the years as well. We are, as ever, going to have a chat with a team manager. We're going to do every single round of the series. This time, we've got Alex Simpson and hopefully Brenton O'Brien from the Apex Racing team. But before I go and talk to Alex, Paul, just worth noting, this Apex Racing team, they've had a bit of a shaky start in some ways to their new foundations, but we're starting to see them getting into their rhythm now.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, as always, any new partnership, it's going to have that little bit of a rocky road to start with, but then as people get used to working together and working out how best they can work with each other, that's now how we're starting to see that come through, and we saw that in the result of Jamie Fluke last time out. Yeah,
we did. In fact, let's have a word then with one of the team managers for the Apex Racing team. That, as I say, is Alex Simpson. Alex, thanks for being here on RaceSpot TV and on the iRacing Esports Network. Apex Racing team, it's been an interesting, well, 6 months here, of course, a merger between Apex Racing UK and the Evolution Racing team to create Apex Racing team.
Yeah, indeed it is. Thank you very much for allowing me to be here. Always looking forward to this race. It's going to be interesting. But yeah, been very, very busy. I think the last 2-3 months have just been absolutely non-stop, and just trying to get everything organised. You don't really realise how much can be involved in sort of joining two teams together, but just so many things just come out of the woodwork. And of course the guys have got to get themselves on the ball come race day and all prepped up and practice and things like that, while all the rest of the stuff is going on in the background.
So that merger, I mean, Evolution Racing Team historically have been more of an Australasian team. You and Apex Racing UK, as the name suggests, has been more European UK focused. How hard has it been to actually kind of converge multiple time zones into what is now a worldwide organisation?
Yeah, exactly that. I mean, it is difficult. Obviously, we are online at very different times, but it also gives us a bit of an advantage in a sense, because while one group of guys are resting, the other guys are taking the data that's been learnt from the testing from the Europeans, and then the Aussies will take that, tweak it, work with it, and then when we wake up in the morning or come back from work and things like that, there's more things for us to test and try. So we kind of almost get around the clock development cycle going on now. So yeah, it's working quite well in its infancy, and I'm sure there's a few things that we've got to tweak, we've got to fine tune, and we can improve a little bit more. So yeah, I'm excited to see how the guys are working at the moment. So I don't think I've ever seen our Discord channel quite so busy with ideas and things like that right now, bouncing all over the place. So yeah, it's as a team boss, it's great to see.
Well, let's talk about some of your drivers in this organisation. Of course, it was a fantastic race last time out by Jamie Fluke. He's actually 4th place in the championship as it stands right now. But talk us through the drivers that you've got in this series and what the team's expectations are after running, of course, in the previous series that was the Grand Prix series, and what your expectations are in this new high-level version of esports.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think obviously we come off a really good 2018. We definitely took a step forward, and the change in car was obviously a concern to us, because Apex Racing UK were very much known as an open wheel team. That was kind of what we specialised in. And to switch to a tin top car for the single sort of individual drivers championship, yeah, it got us we were a little bit perhaps apprehensive at the start, but the guys started working well together, saw the pace that was going on out there, and everything looked pretty decent, to be fair. With test races and things like that, pace looked good. So I think kind of what we saw in round number 1 was kind of what we're hoping to sort of replicate throughout the season as kind of like a minimum. So I would like to think we will definitely see the guys on the podium on a regular basis. I think that will please them. As for who that will be, I mean, there's no way to really pick a fastest driver out of our crew right now. They're all very, very quick. One week it's one driver, the next week it's another. Some are quicker in race spec over Q trim and things like that. So yeah, it's I think more of the same from us, and we'll be happy. Obviously Brenton's joined us, hopefully he can get his mic unmuted. But yeah, I think we were dead chuffed with round 1 and how things gone. And actually, that kind of the result that we got actually drove us forward in the GTs as well. So we had a really good GT weekend just gone as well, just sort of showing, well, that we are an open wheel team at heart, but actually this merger is working well in the tin tops, and we can bring something to the party for these races as well.
Well, yeah, you mentioned it. Brenton O'Brien is here, of course, the other team manager for Apex Racing Team. And Brenton, I talked a moment ago to Alex about, the logistical situation of merging two teams who are almost on the opposite side of the world. Well, in terms of yourself, how has it been the experience for you over the past couple of months?
He's messaging me now. I think he's struggling to get unmuted.
Yeah, let me just give me 1 second. I'll try and find a way of doing that. I haven't muted him. So I'm not quite sure what's happened. But I'll tell you what, Alex, I'll just wrap up with you very quickly. Hopefully we might have the chance to talk a bit later on. Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, it's a very technical racetrack, and in particular, that run to the keyhole through turn number 1. Now, of course, IndyCar, they actually start their races on the back straightaway. We're doing a standing start here and towards turn number 1. Have you got any worries, and what have you been telling your drivers in terms of negotiating that first half a lap?
Yeah, I think I'm not too worried. I mean, every race that we've been to in the past, you always have the first couple of corners are always bad, like Spa, it's Lecombe, and a few other circuits. There's turn 1s and 2s, so they'll be mindful. They'll leave a little bit of space where they need to. Obviously, the first couple of laps is key to try not to lose places more than anything. So they'll be defending the best they can. But if they see an opportunity, I have no doubts that they'll take it. Very difficult to overtake around this circuit, of course. So when something crops up, I'm sure they're gonna go for it.
Well, I'm going to have to leave it there because the checkered flag is out for practice. We are ready to go qualifying. So first of all, thank you very much to Alex Simpson and Brenton O'Brien, in spirit at least, from the Apex Racing team. But as I just alluded to, that practice session is over, and now we have got 7 minutes in order to get ourselves drivers qualified. Let's hand over then to the commentary team of Paul Smith and Connery Maddock.
Thank you very much, Will. Yes, it is the start of qualifying for week number 2 of this series. And of course, with this championship, you do have to remember that it is, for the sprint race, a inverted grid for the top 8. Now you may think, well, won't drivers just sandbag in this qualifying session? Well, no, because there are points available to the top 5 in this qualifying session. So you will see drivers pushing to the limit to try and get that fastest qualifying time. You can see the conditions up on screen at the moment. Very hot track temperature, Connery, and that's going to have an adverse effect on these drivers. They're only going to get 1 hot lap at these tyres, and then they're going to have to go back to the pits.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no stringing these laps together in qualifying with a track temperature as hot as it is right now, just sitting at 47 degrees Celsius. Of course, that will fluctuate due to the clouds coming in and out, and just the track soaking up the temperature from the cars running on it as well. Mitchell de Jong out there on track will actually is out back there. He'll actually have to get himself back out and going once again. There's Sebastian Job, the British driver, heading onto a lap right now, heading through that first turn, which would be very interesting come turn 1 during the races, because it's not a very heavy braking zone at all. So we'll see 2x2 like Noah's Ark coming through there, and then down into one of your only overtaking opportunities here at this racetrack through turn 2. And you have to be, some of you might be wondering, where is the other Red Bull Racing Esports team driver of Frederick Rasmussen, the Dane? Well, I think a lot of people, especially if you've been paying attention to the chat, will know exactly what the situation is. Frederick Rasmussen has handed in his Porsche Esports Supercup license of his own volition there, Paul, which is a whole very interesting story all on its own.
I mean, it is sad to see that, because unfortunately, he was one of the championship contenders, you have to say. But definitely, when we look at it, he picked up quite a number of instant points. He got penalised for the instant in lap 1 of race 1, in terms of the instant with Max Benecke. And then he picked up a further few instant points in the second race for the incident of him trying to rejoin after being spun by Mitchell de Jong, who, by the way, also got found guilty of the initial contact. He did pick up 12 instant points. Once you hit 14 instant points in this series, you start picking up penalties. So it was always going to be tricky for him to get through the season without picking up any other instant points in there. And Porsche, they're taking on-track action and instants very seriously, aren't they, Connery?
Yeah, very seriously indeed. Maybe not by the way of in-race penalties, but if you start to show a pattern of behavior throughout the season, then you will be looking at penalties further down the line. As we see your first couple of qualifying times go up onto the board, Jared Filsell, provisional pole position just for this moment in time. Sebastian Job, provisional first row as well, as those times at least sort of inside your top 10, looking very, very close indeed. And we've still had the vast majority of the field not qualify.
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody else, they're all being just sat around waiting for the conditions, but unfortunately, with only 7 minutes to qualifying and only 2 flying laps, you do have to come out the pits eventually. We're looking at Gregor Hutu at the moment, the Finnish driver, coming through the S's into turn number 9 before he heads on through Thunder Valley. It's a tricky part of the track, pretty much a single line through this section in towards 11, and then the carousel, this right-hander here, really tricky corner. You got to hold that inside a little bit, veer it out, and then it tightens up there on the exit before hitting through the left-hander at 13. What will his lap time be? A 23.155, so that certainly has put him up into 4th place on the grid at the moment. He'll be still trying to set at least another time, and here's another man who's trying to set a time, Joshua Rogers, across the line then, 22.812 to the top of the boards by 0.2 of a second.
Rogers is an absolute monster. He can just pull these lap times out of the bag a good couple of tenths of a second faster than everyone else. He always is the person to find something out there on circuit that no one else can find, at least so far. Maximilian Benecke, his time is good enough to go up into P2, but what a lap from Rogers. He's continuing on his form from that first race day at Barber Motorsports Park. It seems like it wasn't just a fluke. He is one of the strongest drivers on the iRacing service, if you ask me.
I tell you what, we're going to have drama because Ricardo Castroledo has not set a lap time. He's taking it back to the pits, and he's not going to have enough time to set another lap. So we'll look at, well, Joshua Rogers still trying to push on and trying to get another lap time in here, but we've seen how close the lap times are. I'm looking through our timing screen. First to 32nd, covered by 8.5 tenths of a second. That is how close this championship is here.
That is very, very close indeed. Joshua Rogers heading his way towards the line once again. Won't be able to improve on his fantastic qualifying time, but still, it was a 1:23 flat, and that would have still been pole position for his second lap if that was actually his best one. That's an absolutely incredible pace coming up for Joshua Rogers, although me saying pole position is a little bit disingenuous since we do have the reverse grid here for the top 8. But it's going to be 10 bonus points going the way of Joshua Rogers right now, unless anyone can get themselves pole position instead. We still got a couple of drivers yet to set qualifying times. There's Bobby Zelensky heading his way across the line. That lap will not be valid, and he has run out of time here. Only 5 seconds left until the session switches over, and that means Zelensky, Castroledo, and Heinrich will have to start at the back of the grid.
They certainly will. So we will take you through then. Now, just bear in mind that the grid does get inverted here in this one. So for the starting grid here, it is actually going to be Martin Kroenke who's on pole position. The times that we see there is actually how they qualified, because Joshua Rogers was the quickest driver ahead of Maximilian Benecke. But it is Kroenke and Hutu who are actually on front row, with Jared Filsell and Jamie Fluke 3rd and 4th. Kemal Franchak in 5th place with Jeremy Fluke 6th, and then it's Benecke and Rogers rounding out the top 8. The rest of the field, though, however, they are in the times order that they scored times. Alexander Thebe and Patrick Holtzman rounding out the top 10. Graham Carroll just outside the top 10 with David Williams, the 2 Brits there side by side. Sebastian Job, Tommy Ostgaard, Mitchell de Jong, let me look at him, he's struggling today, down in 15th place for him, alongside Kevin Ellis Jr., Pete Berriman, and with the rest of the field, we've almost run out of time here, so we'll just have the rest of the field go through on screen. But Connery, we've mentioned it already, overtaking is difficult around this track.
Yeah, you're going to have to be making up those moves very early on when everyone is stacked up together and trying to get the tyres up to temperature. And if you can get those tires working the best for you the quickest, then you're going to be making the moves early on in the race. But later on, it is so difficult here at Mid-Ohio to be able to make up those positions. So track position is at a premium here. And I'd have to say, what a pleasure it is to have Martin Kroenke back on pole position. Even though it's thanks to a reverse grid, it's sort of reminiscent of years past.
Well, here we go then. 15-minute sprint race for the Porsche Esports Super Cup. The green flag's in the air. Away we go then. And it is a good start from Martin Kroenke straight away. Gregor Hutu dropping in right behind him. The rest of your field coming through turn number 1 now. Hopefully we'll be able to have a clean start to this one. And already one of the Apex Racing team, and it's a huge crash at the back of the field. You can see it in the background of that shot. The car going up and over there, and I believe that was Antoine Hijla was involved in that one. So that's a major incident for the Apex Racing team driver. We'll get a replay up on screen, but you can see he's already had 1 knock and then another couple of knocks. So big drama, and it was a Coanda car that lost control initially, and around they go when it's trying to get control, and he just keeps on getting knocked up and over, Connery.
That was Matti Piatella taking the spin that eventually caused a huge amount of carnage behind. But coming back to the live pictures, it is still Martin Kroenke leading the pack around. And guess who's in second place? It's Gregor Hutu. We like to see this rivalry, but there's been a spin in the back there, and they all stack together. They actually got it caught, but Sebastian Job here, he's got a slowdown penalty, and the drama continues because Peter Berryman is now in the middle of the racing circuit.
That's the 69 car up and over with massive accident here. These drivers, they're finding it difficult with the space that's available on track, but we're still staying green flag racing here, and it is Martin Kroenke who is out in the lead of this one. Job was the one who made the little contact initially, and then you can see everybody just stacks up behind him. He tries to keep out the way, and then it just all happens there in front of him, and bouncing about goes one of the cars. But we're back to live action now, and we're looking at that 8th place battle at the moment. Alexander Thebe and Patrick Holtzman, they are separated by a couple of tenths there, but as I mentioned, at the end of the first lap, Martin Kroenke leads, Gregor Hutu second, Jared Filsell in 3rd place, with Kamil Franchak in 4th place. That's the top 4. Max Benecke is up in 5th place as well, with Jamie Fluke rounding up 6th. We've got another. I'm just seeing my timing screen. There's been an incident further down your field. David Novakovsky has been involved in that one. So everything, all this drama happening straight away, but it's because it's such a tight field. You look at how close it is. It was Jack Sedgwick who lost control, wasn't it, Connery? That's what caused that one.
Yeah, there's Nowakowski that went for a bit of a tumble as well. So very much a race of attrition, and this is only the 15-minute sprint race here to set the grid for the feature race just a little bit later on. So the drivers really taking what I said at the start of the broadcast to heart, in that it will be a bit difficult to make up positions later on in the race, and the start of it is where you have to do all of your work. But, you know, with those opening incidents now perhaps over and done with, I'll try not to jinx any of the drivers out there, then maybe, just maybe, we'll see some better racing here from this point forwards. There's Joshua Rogers, though, down in P8, up to P7 now, and now he's looking to make the move over Jamie Fluke. Around the outside, he looks up towards turn 4 then. Not too deep on the brakes there for Josh Rogers, just sensing out his opposition here, not able to make his way by, but he did this exact same thing just a couple of weeks ago in the first round of the season, where he was able to bring himself back through the field and get towards those podium positions.
Well, we're looking through the field and looking at this battle for second place now, because Jared Filsell all over the gearbox of Gregor Hutu here. He's definitely trying to push it up. Don't forget, you can check out live timing and scoring. Just heading over to the RaceSpot website, racespot.tv/timing, to check out all of that. But I tell you what, these two, they're pushing hard, and Filsell, we've seen how good he is in a tin-top car, especially in this Porsche before in the past, and he's certainly showing his ability here, and it also shows you, Connery, just talking about the multiple incidents we've had, just how desperate people are trying to make up ground in this sprint race here to try and get as better result for the second race as well. There goes Rogers on Jamie Fluke, up into 6th place now for Joshua Rogers.
Yeah, making those moves. We'll get the replay up on screen down into one of your only overtaking opportunities here at this racetrack into turn 2 of the keyhole. Slings one down the inside. Somehow has managed to get that car stopped. Comes up in the middle of the corner a little bit, but Jamie Fluke gave enough room on the inside for that to happen.
Oh!
That's Rogers up in position. That's someone around there.
That's Fluke. He's up and around. He was right up behind Joshua Rogers. I was just about to praise his awareness, his special awareness to notice Rogers coming down the inside into the keyhole. And well, here we see from on board, gets into the back, and I must have got a tap from behind there for the car to spin around like that. And oh, Jamie Fluke all the way down to 24th in this one now. So not an ideal day for him, but still this battle for second place. And the thing is, look behind them, because Franchak and Beneke are both catching up to this one. I just feel that Hutu is slowing down Jared Filsell here.
That could definitely be the case, as the fastest man of anyone last time was Maximilian Beneke. Here comes the move then for Filsell, looking around the outside of the grizzled veteran Finnish driver of Gregor Hutu, but Hutu able to hold position here on the run down the back straight towards turn 4 of China Beach as the cones scatter as Filsell just tries to play a little bit of bowling there with the cones down into turn 4. Franchak looking for a move behind this one on Filsell, so Filsell, he has to be looking ahead and behind here because he's getting harassed.
It's the most difficult position to be in, is attacking but at the same time having to be defensive as well. It is a really tricky thing to do, and if you can achieve it, then you are really a top line driver. But well, all of this battling is just allowing Martin Kroenke to just pull away a little bit. It was 4/10 faster on the last lap than Gregor Hutu, so Kroenke pulling away in the front of this field. And don't forget, Connery, that this, however the finishing positions are in this race, that is the grid for the main feature race where the big money is.
Yeah, it is. Of course, you only get half points for this sprint race, 50 for the race winner. Of course, that makes it 100 for the feature race winner. And Martin Kroenke doing a very, very good job at the front of the field and able to bring out a gap over Gregor Hutu, his old rival in the open wheel machines when this World Championship used to be open wheel machines. But with the help of Porsche, we get our tin top GT cars in amongst the action this time around. Joshua Rogers, though, still in P6, and even though we always talk about Joshua Rogers as this driver that can always make up these positions pretty reliably, I think this is the track becoming much more of a factor now, as he's not able to make his way through as fast as perhaps we expected.
A little bit wide of the apex, just in front of him was Franchak, and that's just going to allow Beneke to get closed up. But the thing is, look at Rogers now, all over the rear of Maximilian Beneke. He was 4/10 faster on the last lap, as you can see on the graphic below. But I tell you what, Rogers, he's now putting the pressure on Beneke. But if there's anybody who can deal with pressure, it is Maximilian Beneke.
Yeah, he can withstand anything that Joshua Rogers throws at him. Jared Filsell, though, still trying to track down Gregor Hutu. Actually follows very closely, coming through the final couple of corners here and coming across the start-finish line to start lap number 7. We will have 6.5 minutes left in this event to try and get these positions sorted out. Martin Kroenke is basically checked out at the front of the field right now, so it seems like it might just only be a battle for the final couple of podium positions here in this sprint race. Filsell again bringing it right up to the rear bumper of Hutu through the keyhole, but he can't find a gap to slot himself through.
Oh, I'll tell you what, there's a battle further behind, and that's between the Red Bull car and the Pure Racing Team car. And as they go down the back straight at the keyhole, it is the Red Bull car in front, and that is the number 17. It is number 17, isn't it? Yeah, my eyes are deceiving me there. No, it was Patrick Holtzman, the 27, I should say. It's difficult to see that number on the front windscreen, but looking further back here, Tommy Osgaard, the Norwegian driver, in the pack, in a battle pack here, and it's just a queue of cars here. And at the front of them is the 24 Mitchell de Jong, who's managed to gain a few positions in this race, up to 10th place now after starting down in 15th. So he's on the move, he's pushing forward, and the man battling for the championship certainly not in a position that he wants as well. We see this other battle as well. It's Jurgis versus Cholak here, Connery, and this could be a volatile mixture right here.
It could well be, but battling for positions just inside of your top 20 between these two. Jurgis, though, the Greek driver, holding position as they head their way into turn 1 over Marin Cholak, of course, the ex-Real World WTCC driver there. And still going to be mid-pack in this particular race. He has made up a very good amount of positions on his grid position, though. He's up into P19 after starting in 28th. That's a fantastic bit of progress being shown there from Cholak.
Oh, I'll tell you what, there's some battling further up for 3rd place at the moment. Hutu is in 2nd, Phil Sell, Franchek, Beneke, and of course Joshua Rogers. And Rogers had to get a little bit, it was getting a bit aggressive on Beneke just behind these drivers. So people are starting to get a little bit of an itchy right foot here. 4 minutes remaining in this race, and these drivers are still pushing on and pushing hard because they know how important it is to move up even just 1 position in this race, with given how difficult overtaking has been and has shown here in this race, Connery.
Yeah, and you can just see that by how tightly that Jared Filsell is following right up against Gregor Hutu, but he's not fast enough in the right places to be able to make this pass happen. So it seems like even if you're a couple of tenths of a second faster than the car ahead of you, it's so tough to try and find a way by them at this racetrack. Joshua Rogers perhaps will try to prove me wrong as he looks for the move over Maxime Beneke. Wider line being taken there in towards turn 2, but he needs to drive off the corner if he's going to have any sort of opportunity coming down into turn 4, and I don't think he has it, so he just has to sit in line, and this must be so frustrating for your drivers.
I'll tell you one thing that this is showing is the experience and the class of Gregor Hutu at the front of this queue. He is obviously just that little bit slower than the rest of them, and he is holding them up, but he's positioning his car exactly where he needs to. He knows exactly what he needs to do to keep these drivers behind, and he's certainly showing that here as we reach 2.5 minutes remaining in this one. It is still Martin Kroenke out in the lead, 2.4 seconds ahead of Hutu, Phil Sell, Franchek, Beneke and Rogers here. That's your top 6 in this race. As they head in towards the carousel again, Phil Sell with nowhere to go, and the rest of them behind are just having to follow the leader.
Yes, they are, but will this change with the final 2.5 minutes left in this race? I think it has to be an almighty send it down the inside at turn 2 if this is going to change inside of the podium positions here in this 15-minute sprint race. Phil Sell not going to be in the position to challenge Hutu this time into the keyhole, and it's Josh Rogers again trying an alternate line, trying a wider approach and a late apex of the keyhole, but it doesn't seem like it's resulting in much for him right now. Kroenke 2.6 second advantage at the front of the field as the rest of the drivers, well, they would hope to try to jostle for position for those final podium positions. You can see the flashing of the lights there from Joshua Rogers. He must be so fuming that he can't find a way past.
But I tell you what, as he looks to the inside, he's trying to get in the mirrors of Max Beneke here. He's really trying to affect him mentally, to try and cause him to make a mistake here, is Josh Rogers. But the more that you do that, the more likely you're going to be offline and make a mistake yourself. So you don't want to push it too hard. Interesting to see how Beneke just kept it off of the curb there on the inside as they're heading through 10 and then 11. Before they're into the carousel once again, and this 13-turn course has proven once again to be really close for action. And speaking of action, further down your field, we're going to battle here. Kazuki Umashima involved. He's got damage to the side of his car there, but the Japanese driver down in 31st, losing out the position to Jack Sedgwick, another man who'd fallen down the order in 30th place.
Yeah, it seems like there's a bit of, well, I would say a bit of damage. It's actually quite a lot of damage to Kazuki Yamashima's car, and he's going to struggle in the next, well, lap that this race has to go. Joshua Rogers still locked right on the back of Maximilian Benecke there, but it's still very frustrating for him to be in this position. But look at the run he's got out of turn 2. He could send it now down the inside at turn 4. A defensive line being taken here for Maximilian Benecke will keep him ahead coming into this little bit of an S's section. Rogers trying to find a line, but he can't find anything as they snake themselves through this last sector.
Yeah, as the clock ticks on down to 0, so we are on the final lap of this race then, and it's been an action-packed and drama-filled opening to today's proceedings, but one man who has basically started this race from the front is staying out in the front, and that's Martin Kroenke, winner from green to checker. Great drive from him. He's just going to make it round the final corner here, and he takes the win in the heat race here at Mid-Ohio in the Porsche Esports Super Cup. Second, it goes to Gregor Hooter. Great drive, defensive drive from him, with Jared Filsell rounding out your podium there in this heat race, I should say. I keep on wanting to mention the feature race. That's coming up next in a few minutes' time, but still, what great action there, Connery, from the drivers in that first race.
Yeah, and I think this will also be a bit of information gain for every single driver out there here today, that, you know, if they want to make these passes work, then they have to take risks, and they can't just afford to sit behind and stay where they are for the rest of the race. So that's why we saw so much carnage coming through the first 1 or 2 laps, is because drivers knew that they needed to make their passes and make their passes quick. I think as a result, we'll see very similar sort of circumstances in that feature race, and then maybe a little bit of action later on as well, as people try to desperately make their way by.
We'll be able to talk you through. Unfortunately, the graphics not giving us the result there, but it was Martin Kroenke who won that race ahead of Gregor Hooter in second place. Jared Filsell ahead of Kamil Franchek in third place. There we go, the results have come up on screen now. Then Maximilian Benecke, Joshua Rogers, Patrick Holtzman there, able to hold on to 7th place, Alexander Thieb 8th. Graham Carroll, the British driver, in 9th, with Mitchell de Jong from 15th to 10th there in your field. And, well, I tell you what, that was certainly an interesting and drama-filled race, and it certainly has a lot of talking points there, Will. It
does indeed, as the rest of the results then come up on your screen. David Williams in P number 11, Tommy Ursgaard 12th, Alejandro Sanchez in 13th place, Tomas Tatala even in 14th, and Kevin Ellis Jr. rounds out your top 15. I think the biggest talking point is the carnage that we saw on lap number 1, Paul. We talked about it in qualifying, or you talked about it in qualifying. Porsche are taking a very serious look at this series. This isn't about bumper car racing. This is about clean racing, the same way as if this was to be the actual Porsche Super Cup.
Absolutely. It's, you know, if you're going to invest as a company $100,000 into the prize fund of the series, you want it to be the best driving out there. And I tell you what, these drivers, they're going to get a bit of a shock with the amount of penalties that they'll pick up, and they'll start getting penalties in terms of grid penalties and things like that. So they've got to be careful, and if they're not careful, they could just end up ruining their chances of a championship win and that share of $100,000.
Yeah, and what we did see is a lot of drivers stay out on track, and they got themselves, of course, these cars, they can take quite a bit of damage to them. So we saw a lot of drivers turning laps just to make sure that they actually finish the race, because every point is going to be vital in this series. But to talk about those incident points in a bit more detail, Paul, also, the thing is, if you're too aggressive at the start of the season, it means that you've got to be more conservative later on. Otherwise, you're going to end up in a situation that you talk about, getting penalties, be it qualifying penalties, be it start grid penalties, or be it any other penalty that Porsche and iRacing decide for these drivers. And what that means realistically is these drivers, they've had 2 sprint races in a row now. We've seen a lot of drama early on. A lot of team bosses are going to start saying, okay guys, calm it down. Even though it's a tight track for overtaking on, you've got to remember that you can't afford to be getting these in points.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you consider that the opening round, I'm looking at the instant report here from the sprint race of last time out. You know, there was quite a number of the incidents were on that opening sprint race. It just shows how desperate these drivers are to actually get those results and get the positions to be able to push on into the feature race. But they have got to be careful, because as we saw, it's not just Freddie Rasmussen who picked up multiple penalties last time out. There's a couple other drivers as well who are sitting on 8 licence points here in this series. So as soon as you pick up 14 penalty points on your licence, that's when you start getting hit with penalties, and that will drastically affect your chances at the championship.
Yep, we still got though a 30-minute feature race to come here in Lexington, Ohio, and of course whoever wins this one will become $1,000 richer. There's a look then at the track conditions. It's still hot out there. Air temp 30 degrees Celsius. The track temp, very warm, 46 degrees Celsius. There's a little bit of wind, but not too much right now. Humidity is high at 74%. Josh Rogers, we talked about this at the top of the program. He has been a winner in the last 3 World Championship feature races, be it in this or the VRS GTR Racing World Championship. Can he go 4 for 4, or is there going to be a new feature winner here today? Back to you, Paul and Connery.
Yeah, so thank you very much then. So the clock is ticking down on the warm-up session, the practice session before this main feature race. And, well, one thing that we will see in this race, Connery, is how drivers are able to manage the tyres as well. So with these hot conditions, that is going to be a main talking point, and certainly these drivers are going to be feeling the effects of that. But we'll be able to bring up the starting grid here as well. It is Martin Kroenke, who is on pole position then as a result of his win in the last race, with Gregor Hutu second, Jared Fussell third, Kamil Franchak, great race from the Polish driver there, in 4th place. Max Benecke, Joshua Rogers, they're going to continue that battle they had in that first race. Patrick Holtzman, Alexander Thebe, and then rounding out your top 10 is, of course, the drivers of Graham Carroll and Mitchell de Jong. So interested to see how far Mitchell is able to pull along. The rest of your field is going through screen here, but just quickly, Connery, what are your thoughts for this main feature race?
Yep, just make sure you're all buckled in, folks, because this is going to be a wild ride here on these first 1 or 2 laps due to the scenes that we saw in that 15-minute sprint race. Let's see exactly what happens here when Martin Kroenke leads the field into turn 1 for the 2nd time today.
Well, here we go then. The drivers looking up to the flag stand, waiting for the green flag to drop. Engine revs rise. Green flag drops, away we go then for the feature race here in the Porsche Esports Supercup. And it's a great start once again from Martin Kroenke. Look at Jared Fussell down the inside into turn number 1 there. He's got the jump on Gregor Hutu. That's exactly what he needed after being stuck behind him for so long. We've got cars going off in the background into the grass, but no big instance so far on the start of this race.
Oh, Benecke!
It could be a big one. Benecke, he's trying to make moves, and there is an incident at the keyhole. We've got cars flying through the air. 24 is one of them, and that's Mitchell de Jong. One of your championship contenders has been flying through the air in an instant at the keyhole early on in this race. Replay up on screen, Connery.
Yeah, that was Maximilian Benecke there, just getting into the back of Franjak just as Rogers actually was trying to make his way through on Benecke. So all of three of them, well, two of them behind, tried to make the move at the exact same point in the circuit, all just tripped over each other, and it has caused the absolute carnage that you've just seen in turn 2. Rogers got the best of that one, arguably, of the ones involved. He still sits in P4 right now, but Kroenke, he has got himself still at the front of this field. Filsell, we saw the move down the inside to get himself up onto that second step of the podium, but things get a lot more difficult from this point forwards.
One man has taken it back to the pits. It's David Nevakovsky, so not the ideal start to the championship for him that he needed, but across the line then, first lap completed. Matt Kroenke, Joe Filsell, Gregor Hutu, Joshua Rogers up in 4th place now, Patrick Holtzman and Alexander Thebe round at the top 6. So there are drivers who have been making their way through the field. There are some battered and bruised cars out there, but they're still in the race, they're still in contention. But this longer race here is going to be more of a mental game. You're maybe not going to see quite as dramatic or desperate moves as we saw in that sprint race earlier on. But look at this battle line. Graham Carroll, he's got Alexander Thebe in front of him, and he's also got Maximilian Benecke behind him. So it's two Germans and a British driver. They're in battle at the moment as they're going through the right-hander into the S's now. And Carroll, he didn't have the best of rounds at Barber, but this time out here at Mid-Ohio, he's having a better showing here, Connor.
Yep, he is up into P7 after starting in P9 in this event. That was somewhat helped due to all the dramas that happened ahead of him that he didn't get caught up in. So he was able to pick his way through that wreck in turn 2 and got himself into a good position as a result, and now locked onto the back of Alexander Thebe on the run down towards turn 1. And turn 1 can be particularly sketchy because you can actually get 2 of your tires on that inside curb there and still be relatively okay, but if you take a little bit too much out of it, then that's going to be a bigger issue as we're going to go up for P1 there. That is going to be Filsell versus Kroenke through the keyhole. Filsell looks to get the run off the corner. He has the slipstream, looks left, looks right, looks left again, and now Filsell will look to commit around the outside at China Beach. Turn 4, does he complete the move? Hard on the brakes he goes, side by side with your race leader through the S's section. He's going to get run out of road. No, he's able to hold the inside up over the crest. Fantastic battling here, Paul.
It is fantastic. He got a great run through the keyhole, that's for sure. He's down the inside, but he's got the outside here for turns 8 and 9. It's not the ideal place to be. Onto the grass he goes, and look who's through. It's Kirkahutu. Around goes Filsell also, almost. Hopefully he doesn't collect anyone when he rejoins. He doesn't do that, so that's good. But that just goes to show how tricky it is. Look at that. He was given room. That's the crucial thing there. He was given room by Martin Kroenke, but because he was offline on the dirty line there, he lost control, got a wheel onto the grass, and that's all it takes.
Yeah, that's an absolutely brilliant effort there from Filsell. Unfortunately, he pays the price when it comes to that middle sector. And now it's going to be Martin Kroenke and Gregor Hutu that are going to be leading the pack around. And Joshua Rogers, despite being involved in that first lap incident at turn 2, he's got himself onto that third step of the podium. And despite that little bit of bodywork damage he has to his Porsche, it still seems rather competitive.
Well, as they head on down to the China Beach section once again, battling first, second and third, they're close together once again. We're only 5 minutes into this race already. And Gregor Hutu is showing that he means business. He wants to get a win here in this feature race, but he's coming under intense pressure now by the Australian Joshua Rogers. It's Finland versus Australia here on the iRace and Esports network. And I tell you what, these drivers, they will keep on pushing and keep on challenging each other all the way through. As we head on into turn 11, the relatively fast left-hander when you consider this track, and then onto the brakes then for the carousel. Not able to make any moves for the time being as we look back to that battle, and it is Graham Carroll, I believe, as well as one of the, we'll get a replay up on the screen here, and Yao Vaz has been involved in an incident. Oh, and into the back of him went one of the Apex Racing Team cars. He's collected, I believe that would have been Umashima is collected, so not good. We've got battling for, well, all the way down your field here. You got battling for the lead, you got battling for 6th place. It's fantastic action, and tell you what, Kroenke has made a little bit of a breakaway at the front there. He's gained about 6/10 over the rest of them, but look at this, Carroll in the slipstream, 6th position for the Red Bull driver. Onto the brakes, into the right-hander, not able to make any moves just as yet, but the pressure is building, and in this longer race when tyre management is crucial, Connery, maybe just pushing that driver in front to make them use their tyres up a bit more will come into effect later on.
Yeah, so we'll keep track of that one as a storyline throughout this race. Battling just outside of your top 10, though, that's going to be Alejandro Sanchez versus Jared Filsell, and this is exactly how far Jared Filsell has fallen back after challenging for the race lead, getting, well, in some people's view, crowded off the racing circuit by Martin Kroenke, and now he's just fighting for points positions that are very much inferior to the ones he was fighting for a little bit earlier on in this race. So a bit of a recovery drive has to go on here for Jared Filsell. There's still a close battle for P2, and in fact, actually, Gregor Hutu went slightly defensive into the keyhole. Here comes Rogers then, battle for P2 going on up on your screens for you now. What an aggressive move for Rogers. They'll take it side by side. It's a drag race coming down the back straight between young and, I would have to say, old as well for Gregor Hutu. Hutu on the outside line for the Finn, the Australian of Rogers on the inside for turn 4. Can Rogers complete the move? He can take a bow.
That was great stuff from Joshua. Put his nose in there, made Hutu run wide. It compromised his run, and that's exactly what he needed to do. I thought Hutu would be able to maybe just get a little bit of a run out of the corner, but it just showed having that inside line worked well. But it was a great little dummy there of making it look down the outside and then late brake move down the inside, and Rogers is through, and I would imagine he'll pull away now, and his next target will be Martin Kroenke, the man in the lead. Joshua Rogers wants to make it 2 feature race wins out of 2, and that's exactly what he's going to try here. Sebastian Job, though, at the back end of your top 10, he's battling with Tommy Ostgaard, with David Williams, and also Max Berneke there in front of him. So those drivers all together in the field, and looking further back there, Jamie Fluke, 15th for Jamie down your field, and well, is certainly making a move there. That's on. Oh, Sebastian Job has had an incident. Look at him; he's coming back onto the track right there in front of us. And Job, what I don't know what happened there at the keyhole, but looking at P number 3 as well. There's action all over this track here. It's fantastic to see in this one. Hutu now under serious pressure from Patrick Holtzman there in that 4th place. So Hutu trying to hang on to a podium position here, but this longer race is giving people the opportunity to move forward if they maybe are just that little 10th or 2 quicker here, Connery.
It certainly seems to be the case. It's going to be Patrick Holtzman going to be on the back of Gregor Hutu, and last time around Hutu actually overcooked the entry to turn 2, which gave the opportunity away to Patrick Holtzman to try and sense remove down the back straight and then into 4, but he was unsuccessful this time. There's also another Red Bull driver involved in the battle. That's Graham Carroll and Alexander Thebe as well. So these 2 battling pairs all together as they head their way through turn 1. Hutu's able to pull out a gap right just a couple of cars further down the line, so he won't be under threat this time into turn 2. But this is absolutely fantastic stuff here coming through the turn 2. Carroll for the inside over Thebe. He gets a bit of oversteer off the corner, and again it's going to be a battle down to 4.
Yeah, so Carroll then, he's got the inside line for China Beach, and I tell you what, he's got a good run of it as well. He might actually make this move before the corner. On the brakes, you can see the car squirreling there, just moving about on the braking, but great drive from Graham Carroll. The Scotsman, he won't like me calling him British too much, he's a Scotsman and a proud Scotsman at that. He's up in 5th place now at the moment, and he'll be setting his sights on his teammate in front of him, Patrick Holtzman. So even though there are teams in this series, you are all out for yourself at the end of the day.
Yeah, no constructors, no team championships to be concerned about. It's the drivers that win the prize money at the end of the day. And speaking of prize money, it looks like right now Kroenke might just be able to take that $1,000 for a feature race win, but he is being chased down right now by Joshua Rogers. Rogers took 0.2 of a second out of your race leader that last time by, and Rogers has plenty of time to work with. He wants another $1,000 in the bank.
Yeah, so as we are at the moment, the standings are Kroenke at the front with Rogers second, Hutu ahead of Holtzman, Carroll, Thebe, who you're seeing in front of us here, Max Beneke with David Williams rounding at the top 8, Tommy Osgaard and Jared Filsell rounding out that top 10. Worth pointing out the drivers that are on pit road and have parked: Yao Vaz, Ricardo Castroledo, David Navakovsky, Lauren Heinrich, and here's the big one, Mitchell de Jong in that first lap incident out of the race. Big ramifications there for Mitchell.
Yeah, absolutely huge for a driver that was challenging for podium positions in the first round of the championship. He will score next to nothing here in the second round, and with only about 10 rounds to go, well, in this entire series, excuse me, then that is a pretty big chunk of points to be losing coming towards that latter portion of the season. Of course, when you start to calculate who could possibly win the championship and what they would need to do to be able to do so, he'll be certainly hoping that he would have had a better performance here today if it comes down to the wire at the end of the season. Gap towards your race leader, though, from the perspective of second place, well, it's at 6.5 of a second right now, and Rogers took another 1/10 of a second out on that last lap. So Rogers making huge inroads. It might just be VRS Quanta SimSport Action P1, P2 in just a couple of laps' time.
I'll tell you what, even though they are teammates, they certainly won't be giving each other any room, that's for sure. Kevin Ellis Jr. we're on board here, the British driver versus the Spaniard Alejandro Sanchez, and this is a battle for 11th and 12th place. Ellis Jr. got the run there. You can see the damage on Sanchez's car on the front end of his car, so he's going to be going that little bit slower here, and maybe just acting as a little bit of a bottleneck in the field, because you can see the queue of cars behind him there on screen. So definitely these drivers are pushing on. Behind them as well, we've got further battle, and Jamie Fluke trying to get a bit of a recovery drive on here in 15th, and he's behind Thomas Tahala in 14th. So the Finn versus the British driver, or Northern Irish driver, to say. I tell you what, this is going to get very confusing for me. But looking at the front, Joshua Rogers once again quicker that last lap. He's been gaining lap on lap to the front there. A tenth, and then 2/10 that last lap. But catching is one thing, passing is very much a different matter.
That is the phrase that we like to use. You can see on the lap time deltas on the bottom right hand side of the screen the time that has been eroded away by the Australian. 2/10 of a second again on that last lap brings it to within 3/10 of a second. But you know, Martin Kroenke, one of the most fiercest defenders of position in this entire championship. What will happen when it's his teammate trying to hound him for position?
Wow, this is I think there'll be a little bit more room given to each other in this one. Speaking of room being given, look at this. Fluke and Tahala through China Beach, and it's going to be Fluke down the inside of this Porsche. Oh, and almost a little bit of contact. Fluke, can he hang on to it? Yes, he does. Another bang of doors through the right-hander, and look at that, the 7 car is coming up, and even more drama because the rest of the field is coming through on them here, and the 7, what a move, Jeremy Bootloop to gain 2 positions there on those two, battling away, and that just goes to show that if you battle too hard, you can end up losing ground, and Fluke now is in danger of getting left out to dry there.
Tatella trying to make his way back. We'll see it up on the replay. Look at this opportunistic move there for Bootloop. Sees the contact between the 2 cars ahead of him. Finds a line on the inside that just opens up for him there. And he's able to get the power down as well. Fantastic performance for the Frenchman. But on the live pictures, this battle has not ended. Tatella now in a battle with Marin Chulak heading their way through turn 2. There are your race leaders heading their way down the back straight. But look at this huge gaggle of machines heading their way through turn 2 and the exit coming up onto the back straight side by side between Chulak and Tatella.
Yeah, those two are going to be battling away down into the right-hander at China Beach, but things are starting to get intense at the front of the field. I mean, they're intense in the mid-pack there as you look at how close they're all getting in that mid-pack through China Beach. You can see how they swap over from one corner to the next. Great side-by-side driving from them, and eventually makes it through to Hala. So Sedgwick not able to make the move in that one, but certainly really, really close action there in your mid-pack. But look at the front of the field then. The 2 leaders are together. Joshua Rogers, slight bit of damage on the front of his car. It will affect his top speed, but top speed isn't a key factor here at this track. It's about how your car handles and how your car brakes and how it looks after its tyres as well. As we have mentioned, track temperatures are in the mid-40s centigrade. That'll be about 115 Fahrenheit for those Americans out there. But look at the run that Rogers gets then. He's got the slipstream here. He's going to have to go to the outside though, because Martin Kroenke will not show him the inside line here. On the brakes hard, late braking round the outside. He can hold it round there because he got the inside for the next left-hander, but Kroenke keep it out there because he got the inside for the next couple of corners, and that's exactly what he's doing. Can Rogers get the cut back here? No, he can't. He's going to have to fall back in line once again, but he's already set his stall out here, Connery. He wants that lead.
Yep, he does, and coming towards the latter sector now. Again, this isn't really a place where you can get the move done, but it looks like Rogers is miles faster than Kroenke right now, and I think it's only going to be a matter of time before he makes his way through to the race lead. But Martin Kroenke, he has to channel the years and years and years of experience he has here in iRacing to try and keep his teammate behind. Through turn 1, line up the run here for Rogers, perhaps up into turn 2. He is in a position, but does he decide to go this early? He does. Outside line, it looks like. Look for that wide line, look for the momentum off the corner, because Martin Kroenke will be slower in that section of the track. And here we go, Rogers with the run out of the corner, with the slipstream as well. He'll have another go at it coming into turn 4.
Yeah, he's going for it. It's worth pointing out that these two drivers half a second slower than the gaggle behind, so they don't need to fight too hard too much because they'll bring the rest of the field in with them. Rogers trying the cutback there on 4 into 5, not able to get the run, but can he hold that inside line for 6 here? They're giving each other room here. Kroenke getting on the power and just staying ahead, but this is slowing each other down. All of this battling is just slowing each other down. They should be working together to try and pull out a bit more of a gap over that gaggle behind, because Gregor Hutu, Patrick Holtzman and Graham Carroll, they want a piece of this action, as we'll look at a replay for Alejandro Sanchez, and that's him in a battle, and he's just got onto the dirt there, got onto the marbles, lost out a bunch of time, and ended up well, lost one position there, but yeah, Sanchez not having the best of days with that damage. But back to your race lead then. Kroenke climbing over the curb, whereas Rogers, he doesn't do that. Into the keyhole. We've seen Rogers pull out the moves here into this corner. It's too far back though to make the move this time around. And again, 0.4 of a second slower than the drivers behind them. So they've got about 2 seconds behind them gap between Rogers and Hutu. But you can see there how this battling has just been slowing each other down here.
Yeah, it has, and if they continue on for another couple of laps like this, then Gregor Hutu can bring himself back into contention. You can also say the same for Patrick Holtzman and Graham Carroll as well. So this 2-car battle for the race lead, if this is prolonged, might just become a 5+ car battle for the race lead right at the end of this race. You can just see Kevin Ellis Jr. outside the top 10 trying to harass the back of the driver of, I believe it was Jared Filsell at the front of the field. No, that's Sebastian Job, who has made the pass complete over Kevin Ellis Jr. over the past lap or so. But with 9 minutes remaining, race lead still undecided, podium position still undecided as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So these drivers, they're all battling out. Of course, the podium finishers in this race here, they all get a share, get some money as well. The winner will be $1,000 richer, as Will mentioned at the top of this race. The second place and third place get money as well. Look at the lead here then. Side by side, Joshua Rogers is going to try and hold it around the outside. If he could hold it around the outside, he could get a better run on the power, get on the power earlier. He can't do that. He's on the grass there. He's almost going off track, but he's going to keep it to the left here. So your race lead battle, a 2 by 2, well, 2 wide here in towards turn number 4. On the brakes once again, we've seen how good Rogers is on the brakes. He's holding that outside line. He's got the inside for the right, the left-hander here, but Kroenke, crucially, once again, showing that experience, showing that ability to place his car where he needs to, is staying ahead for the time being. But these two now, I think Rogers is getting a little bit impatient with 8 minutes remaining, and Thebe has gone off in the field. You can see him spinning there. He's had a big instant. He's dropped down your field. We'll have a look at the replay here, Connery, but not ideal. And I just imagine that, yeah, just a little bit of contact.
Yeah, contact with David Williams there, so that is going to spin the German into the tyre barrier there. Was running in P7, will finish nowhere near that as he gets himself back on circuit and he drops more positions. That car is not looking very healthy at all. David Williams still trying to continue on the battling later on in that replay, but he has solidified himself ahead of Tommy Østgaard here. Go on.
Yeah, looking for the lead there was Joshua Rogers, and here we go, Hutu versus Holtzman. They're battling it out now, so we'll draw his attention to the blast step at the podium. If you end up in third place, you end up with $200 from this race, and well, Holtzman wants that. He wants a bit of extra pocket money here as he goes down into that right-hander once again, but showing the outside line, Gregor Hutu. We saw that defensive driving from Gregor in that first race. Oh, that's a big contentious instant there. Hutu got on the brakes and Holtzman got into the back of Hutu.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's what has happened. Up in towards turn 5 and 6. We'll get another look at it. Boop. Get out of the way, Hutu. I'm coming through. And that's something that will definitely be investigated after this race.
Yeah, of course, with this series, it's not in-race stewarding. They have a panel of stewards look at the instance afterwards, so you won't see any penalties in this race. But we will be sure to tell you about them at the start of next broadcast. But I tell you what, those two having that little incident, it's a Red Bull 3 and 4 then for Holtzman and Carroll. And Carroll's putting the pressure on his teammate, but up in the front as well, we've got the pressure on there. Rogers running really out onto the grass there. It is dangerous to do that because you can lose control so easily. Onto the brakes once again. Less than 6 minutes remaining in this one, and Rogers trying to get the run out of the keyhole once again. He's in the slipstream. He's wanted to try and make this finished, make sure he gets the win in this one. But Kroenke, as we said, ultra experienced sim racer. He knows what he needs to do. He's been in this position many a times in many series. He can just position his car in the right place here, Connery, and hold on to that lead.
Yeah, he's so used to leading World Championship races previous, so it's not exactly a foreign concept here for Martin Kroenke as he tries to defend from his teammate. Jared Filsell, again, trying to make his way back up through the field after an earlier race incident. He currently has the driver of Tommy Østgaard on the front of his nose right now. That's the Norwegian driver just getting a little bit squirrely coming through the middle sector there, but everything seems to be okay with that VRS Quanta SimSport Porsche as they follow their way through that final sector. Look at how closely Jared Filsell is following the Norwegian ahead of him, and now he might just be able to get some sort of run coming through the first sector next time. And look at the line behind as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Jack Sedgwick trying to work his way through, and yeah, you're quite right to draw attention to the race lead because they're going side by side into the keyhole once again. Rogers he's just trying desperately different moves to get past. They've got enough of a gap behind them that they don't need to worry about third and fourth place now. They can battle between the two of them, and the Australian versus German battle is on once again, and Kroenke at the front of this field has been in the lead of this race, well, pretty much from the get-go. In fact, he was in the lead from pole position, and he is just trying everything he can, using all his experience and all of his knowledge and his racecraft to hold on to that lead. But Rogers, the plucky Australian, the young lad who's joined this team, he really is trying to make Kroenke make a mistake. And do you know what? Most of these drivers are a young lad to me now.
Yeah, I'm the youngest person in this controversy. I know that one for a fact, but there we go. Not the youngest person involved in this broadcast. If you include all the drivers, that is for certain as the battle continues for P1. There's a battle continuing further down the pack as well, as we watch Filsell still try to hound the back of Østgaard here, coming through the long right-hander, but again, no gap appearing. Østgaard to make his way to Filsell, excuse me, to make his way through, coming up towards turn one. Again, that's not going to be a place where you can make things happen. Filsell again falling foul of the fact that he's fast in all the wrong places here, and with 3 minutes remaining, when does the desperation start? Well,
I mean, you got to ask that question, and well, I think desperation won't come into it for the lead two. And then the ones behind Filsell, oh well, there's a sign then. The lights are flashing on Joshua Rogers' car. He wants by here. He's trying every little trick that he can pull out here to try and distract Martin Kroenke here as we go through the right-hander, heading into the S's now. Kroenke, he's been able to manage the pace at the front. He can look after his tyres, and these drivers will be feeling the effects of the heat here today. We're heading towards the last couple of minutes, so we've only got a couple of laps remaining once they end this one, so time is running out for Rogers to make the move here, and you would have to say that his best position really will be into the keyhole.
Yep, it's Will coming across the line this time. Looking at the time, it will be around about 2 laps to go here to sort out this battle for P1. Rogers very close coming through turn 1, but he's been in this exact situation before, many times before, but he hasn't been able to complete the move just yet. Again, gesturing towards the outside. Rogers has been favoring this wide entry to turn 2 and late apex to try and maximize the speed coming down the back straight, but Kroenke, he's just placing his car in all of the right places right now, so Rogers cannot find a gap to slot himself in. Looking for a move again into turn 4, outside line, but the outbraking isn't there for Rogers, so now he's starting to run out of time and run out of laps.
Well, this is it. He's got about a lap and a half remaining in this one, and will we see any desperation move come from it? I don't think we will, but you never know. There's money on the line for this one, and these two are just absolute tooth and nail, giving it absolutely everything. It's great to see drivers on the limit here, and speaking of on the limit, Niels Koch down in 20th place, battling out with Bobby Zelensky as well in that mid-pack, and it is very much a pack as well. It's the US driver versus the German. And they are heading through towards the carousel, but we're on to the final lap of the race for the race leaders as we're heading in to that crucial point of the track once again, heading in towards the keyhole, and Rogers will be looking to make a move. He's looking out there, he's not close enough to make a move down the inside here. I think if he doesn't make a move down the next straight into the right-hander, that we will end up with this order unless something drastic happens. But here we go in the slipstream once again down this straight, then heading towards China Beach. And these drivers, they're pushing hard. Rogers just not close enough to make that late braking manoeuvre. And he's going to run, he's trying everything, he's trying to get in the mirrors again, trying to do everything he can to get the win. But Martin Kroenke at the front is controlling where his car goes. His car looks stable, it looks very well planted as we're heading in towards the final few turns. Tommy Oscar has dropped down, I can see on the timing screen, but we will keep an eye on this one because this is going right to the wire then. Into turn number 11, he's flashing the headlights, is Rogers. He wants by his teammate, but Martin Kroenke, he's just got 2 corners to go here, and it's going to be potentially a win here in the feature race. The second feature race of the Porsche Esports Supercup goes to Martin Kroenke. What a drive there from the front, a masterful defensive driving. Brilliant job from Martin in that race. We've still got drivers coming through towards the end here, and there's still battle going on across the line as well. But Connery, what a display of defensive driving there from Martin Kroenke.
Yeah, it is absolutely fantastic to see Martin Kroenke once again on the top of his game, able to defend from the young blood of Joshua Rogers. It was a fantastic, a brilliant effort, bringing himself up from P6 on the grid up into second place, and had very many chances at getting himself to the race lead. But a combination of Kroenke's fantastic defense and the way the track is laid out, which isn't really the best for overtaking, has resulted in him finishing second here today. But the thing is, it is still a fantastic points haul for Joshua Rogers in the entire championship picture.
Well, as we'll no doubt bring the race results up here, and it is $1,000 richer for Martin Kroenke, who wins this one by 1.5 tenths ahead of Joshua Rogers in second. Patrick Holtzman rounds out your podium finishers. Graham Carroll, Gregor Hutu, 4th and 5th. Maximilian Beneke, a decent result for him today in 6th place with David Williams. Jared Philsell, who will be disappointed with that result of 8th place when he was challenging for the lead very early on in this race. Sebastian Job, 8th with Kevin Ellis Jr. rounding out the top 10 here. But Will, I have to say, that was great, intense driving, but respectful driving as well between those two at the front.
Yeah, indeed. So, as a remainder of the results, coming up on your screen right now, Tommy Erskard, 11th place, Jeremy Bootsloop, 12th, Jamie Fluke, 13th, Alejandro Sanchez, 14th, and Jack Sedgwick rounding out your top 15. Remainder of those results going to come up for you now. I completely agree, Paul. Yes, we saw a little bit of crazy driving at the start of that second race. We're going to try and see whether we can show the moment where De Jong started the whole train of incidents down in the first couple of corners. But apart from that, what we've seen is some very determined driving. I do feel bad for Tyler Hudson. He's going to have a long evening after this race, Paul, going through as long with the other iRacing stewards to kind of work out those incident points for those drivers. But overall, the feature race once again delivered.
Absolutely, and it was just fantastic racing. We saw a different element with this as well because of the conditions being so hot. Those drivers having to manage the tyres to make sure they didn't use them all up at the start of the race as well. And I think we'll maybe just seeing that towards the end of that second race there, how Joshua Rogers just wasn't able to quite get that late braking manoeuvre pulled on Martin Kroenke. So definitely, I think a little bit of tyre management came into that race as well. But certainly, this championship is just going to keep on giving. Absolutely. It's going to be brilliant to watch. I can't wait for the next round now.
Yeah, I completely agree. We're going to try, and there's emphasis on the word try, to have a look back to see what happened at the start of this second race. So here's a replay then, as we're just going to turn our attention over to that driver of Mitchell de Jong. Let's ride the start when it happens in a couple of moments' time on board with him. And again, that's going to be a huge disappointment for the driver of Mitchell de Jong, coming home 37th here in this event. And that's actually just right on board. And let's see what happened to that number 24 machine in towards turn number 1. It was okay through here as he comes through, and then the number 28 machine was alongside him as they headed themselves down towards that keyhole for the first time. But the thing is, Paul, actually it all started off, as we said, because Max Benecke, but that's what happened to Mitchell de Jong, and he's out of the race's confidence. And look at all the drivers kind of swarming around him as well, trying to stay on track. And the Ryan race team number 8 car ended up having some huge moments as well.
Yeah, absolutely. That was Ilka Harpala. Was the number 8 car having that big drama there at the start. Able to finish 17th was Ilka, so it's important that you actually carry on, try and carry on if you can, and finish this race. But you saw how all that drama happened at the keyhole there. We didn't get it in turn 1, instead we got it in turn 2. But Benecke was able to get away relatively clean with that, along with Joshua Rogers. They managed to get off scot-free a little bit with that one. But yeah, as you mentioned, I think the stewards are going to have a long old night in the stewards' room, deciding what to give in these few instances in this one. But I tell you what, from this track, the next track is Spa-Francorchamps. It's not like any instance have ever happened there, is it?
No, certainly not, but it is a much longer track. I'm going to show you one more look, if possible. There we are, Josh Rogers. He's actually looking down to the inside. There's some who could argue, actually, that Josh started that chain reaction that ended up with the huge incident behind it. So I think Josh Rogers will be under investigation for that. It will be very interesting to see what the stewards have to say about that. But we have not got any drivers yet to talk to, so we're going to take a quick break here, ladies and gentlemen, on RaceSpot TV. Actually, no, we are not, because we have actually got your race winner, Martin Kroenke, who has got himself his first victory in the Porsche Esports Supercup. And well, congratulations, Martin. Welcome back to World Championship Victory Lane.
Hello. Yeah, thank you.
So, you had yourself the advantage of pole position because of the inverse grid. You're able to survive the first one with challenges behind you, and you made it the double. The first driver in this series, of course, to win both the sprint and the feature race. But just how tough was it out there today?
In the first race, fortunately not too tough. I managed to pull away relatively nicely early on and never really had to fight anyone. Second race gave me a bunch of heart attacks, I think. First of all, Jared went side by side with him through the back part of the track, and I'm not quite sure. I haven't seen a replay. Maybe I actually have touched him and pushed him wide. I'm not sure yet. It's a little bit unfortunate. And second heart attack was Josh being all over my back end, essentially, yeah, for half the race or so. And yeah, he tried it a couple times. It was difficult to defend, but luckily it worked.
Well, you talk about that battle with your teammate. We've seen a lot of drivers go toe-to-toe, wheel-to-wheel here. What form of relationship do you have with your teammates to enable you to run so closely, but actually still have the confidence that you're going to make all the corners?
I don't really know how to answer that. I mean, it's a good relationship, and everyone knows how the other guy drives and knows that no one is going to attempt something silly. So, yeah.
Well, getting yourself,
that's how it works.
Yeah, getting yourself the double victory here today puts you in towards championship contention. A big difference from this time 2 weeks ago. As we head ourselves home in a couple of weeks to Circuit Spa-Francorchamps, do you think that we are going to have a bit more of a relaxed race because of the nature of that Circuit Spa-Francorchamps racetrack?
I hope so. I mean, dirty air is going to be a little bit worse, I think, in some of the faster corners, but at least we have long straights where the draft actually matters, and it should facilitate passing, and it's not going to be as bunched up all the time. I hope that the racing gets better at that track. I think the first two tracks were a little bit too short straights and too tight, and it's very difficult to pass. I hope the passing gets easier as we go to other tracks like Spa and Montreal afterwards. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
Well, before we let you go, Martin, shout out sponsors. Who gets it done for that VOS Koanda SimSports team?
First of all, huge thanks to my teammates that did the majority of the setup work, as I'm still not 100% confident that I can tell whether the setup got better or worse after the change. So huge thanks to them. Also thanks to the ones that are doing the spotting, Philip and Jörn, and yeah, also thanks to our partners. First of all, to Virtual Racing School, to Fitech, SimQuip, and to End1 Design. Well, and also thanks to you for a quality broadcast. Well,
thank you very much. Martin Kroenke there, your race winner here in both the sprint and the feature of the second edition of the Porsche Esports Super Cup. Let's now talk to second place driver, Joshua Rogers. Well, Josh, you certainly tried, shall we say, in that feature race, but you weren't quite able to make it 4 World Championship victories in a row.
Yeah, no, hey guys. Yeah, definitely a really close race in the end there with Martin. It was always going to be a good one to be a part of. Haven't got to race Martin so close before, so yeah, it was always going to be an exciting one, and doing it without contact was obviously the main objective there. But good win to him in the end. It was a close battle. Mid-Ohio is quite a tough track to pass on, so it was always going to be tough, but he drove his best and never put a foot wrong, so congrats.
Talk me through that moment at the keyhole on lap number 1. It seems to me that you and Max Minecke made just a little bit of contact. Talk us through it from your perspective.
Yeah, obviously there was a little bit of contact. I think you know, lap 1 you're always a little bit desperate, and just looked for the door. I thought it was open at that point, and then, you know, obviously a corner like that always funnels in to you know, what is really a one-line corner, and yeah, we met in the middle, so that was an unfortunate one, but I'm sure we'll go to the next one and focus on having a nice clean round.
You have, however, had a good points haul in both the sprint and the feature race once again. We're still awaiting confirmation of the standings, but we assume that you'll still be at the top as we head ourselves into Spa in a couple of weeks' time. What's your feelings as we move to a very different type of racetrack after 2 very technical tracks in North America?
Honestly, it should be a good thing. I think, yeah, going to a track that's a little bit more conventional is going to promote a little bit more racing, and obviously Spa being such a long track as well, you know, you're going to have so many other factors as well. So honestly, looking forward to it. I think you know, these tracks to start the season off were always going to be a little bit chaotic, but yeah, going into Spa and Montreal for the next 2 rounds, certainly looking forward to it. I think, yeah, going to a bit of more of a normal track will be a good thing for everyone. Well, before we let you go, shout out sponsors. Who gets it done? Yeah, always just massive thanks to all the boys for all the work this week. You know, couldn't have done it without them, and you know, I think it showed that the effort we put in this week paid off. So yeah, thanks to them. Also, our main partner, Virtual Racing School, and Peter for all his help from over there. Also, Fitech, SimQuip, End1 Designs for our liveries. Obviously, you guys for the broadcast, and massive congrats to Martin on the win again.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, Joshua Rogers for VOS Koanda SimSports. Koanda SimSports 1 and 2 here today. However, behind them, 2 Red Bull Racing Esports drivers. First of all, Patrick Holtzman finishing on the podium in the feature. Well, Patrick, it has been a crazy time here at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. Talk us through it from your perspective.
Yeah, thank you very much. First of all, the race was crazy. The gaps were so close, even in qualifying. I mean, there's always a bit of RNG involved. I mean, P2, I think, to P10, where I was like a 10th or half a 10th in quali. So everyone was had a chance for the reverse grid pull. And then I was a bit lucky in the first race. Made myself up, gained 3 places from 10th to 7th because some people in front of me took themselves out, and yeah, 7th place for the second race was a decent starting position. I was just following the train. not really had much more pace in me. So, but eventually Gregor started to be slow, and I think he struggled with the tires. So, yeah, I managed to pass him eventually, but I wasn't really happy with how it went. But I think he just broke a bit early there because we were side by side on the straight, so his left-hander braking was compromised. He broke quite early. I wasn't expecting that, and I hit him slightly, so I feel sorry for him. And but really happy for the team 3 and 4. There's not much we can ask for more.
Well, next time out, we go to a very different type of racetrack. I've been talking to it with a couple of other drivers. Spa-Francorchamps, after 2 very technical tracks here in North America. Do you think that the Red Bull Racing Esports drivers will have good pace when we go to Belgium in a few weeks' time?
Yeah, definitely. We will always have good pace. The drivers in this team are just so talented. It's just a consequence to be fast on every track. We're pushing each other so much, and paid out for this time. Could have been maybe a bit luckier in quali, but I think we can be more than happy with the race result. And yeah, I'm pretty confident for Spa as well. But obviously the gaps are so tight. I mean, like I said, a 10, 15 places or something. So, you know, one corner apex that you miss in a race can make or break your day.
Well, before I let you go, Patrick, shout out sponsors. Who gets it done?
Just to the whole Red Bull Racing team. Like all the drivers, the management, for all the support. They're like supporting us so much. It's unbelievable. I think no one really has an idea of how professional the team approach is, and I'm just glad that I'm part of it, and I can't wait to race the next time around Spa.
Well, thank you very much, sir. Patrick Holtzman coming home 3rd place here today, and his teammate Graham Carroll comes home in at the 4th position here today. And Graham, you have been pretty much everywhere on track today. You're happy came in P4 in this feature?
Yeah, to be honest, I'm kind of struggling a bit with this Porsche 911 Cup car. So yeah, to finally get a decent result in the main race, yeah, chuffed with that actually.
Well, talk us through the race itself, the feature race, because there's a lot going on around you in towards the keyhole. How did you survive it?
I went in, I managed to do, I think, David into the first corner. I'm not going to say his second name because I get it wrong all the time, but yeah, got him into turn 1, was behind Patrick, went up to turn 2, so again I was kind of super cautious because the last thing I want to do is take my teammate out. So I went wide, and then I seen I think Benecki was going sideways with an Apex car, so I just took avoidance, and I think I lost a bit. I lost ground to Patrick, and yeah, just as the race went on, again, it's kind of struggling with this car, so I just didn't know where I'd be. Managed to get past the Teed guy, one of the PRT guys, and then just put the head down, managed to sort of get a gap to him. Seen Patrick and Gregor battling, and managed to draw them in, and to be honest, I didn't even think I'd managed to do that, so I felt really good about my pace. The car felt good, and then obviously there was a little bit of contact, managed to get up to 4th, and then it was more of a just bring it home behind Patrick. You know, I'm happy 3rd or 4th, to be honest. I never expected that at the start of today, so yeah, it's been a crazy race, but happy to get a P4 and get some points for the championship. Well,
you've got 3 drivers for your team inside the top 10, of course. One of your teammates no longer a part of the series, but as you head yourself into Spa-Francorchamps, do you think that the team's building momentum now? And are you looking to maybe get a podium at Spa? It's a track, of course, that you've raced at far more often than Mid-Ohio.
Yep, yeah, no, listen, we're sort of in the top 5 now, and to be honest, in the practices and everything else, we're up there pace-wise, but these Coanda boys seem to have a wee 10th or 2 up their sleeve. You know, I could see them battling side by side all that race, and I thought we're going to catch them, no problem, but yeah, they're super quick, so back to the drawing board, try and get a nice setup together for Spa, and yeah, a track that we've had some good results in the F1 WCS, so yeah, hopefully we can transfer that over to the Porsche Supercup.
Well, before we let you go, Graham, shout out sponsors. Who gets it done for you and your team?
Yeah, just a massive shout out to Red Bull. They've been absolutely mega the last few weeks. Have been down sort of, well, with them all down at Milton Keynes, so yeah, they've helped us a lot. So yeah, just Red Bull, Red Bull, Red Bull. yeah, thank them very much, and you guys for putting on a mega broadcast, and Porsche for back in the series.
Well, thank you very much, Graham Carroll. As we can show you the championship standings as they are, Josh Rogers 260 points, Shard Phil Sell 171. Martin Kroenke, Sebastian Job, they are tied for 3rd place right now. Mitchell de Jong, David Williams tied for 5th. Jamie Fluke in 7th. Jeremy Bootsloop in 8th. Patrick Holtzman moves up into 9th place. Max Benecke 10th. Graham Carroll 11th. And Gregor Hutu in 12th position. Tied, by the way, for that 12th place with Tommy Erskard. As, well, quick final thoughts. First of all, Connery, first time we've had a WCS race here at Mid-Ohio since 2012. Did it deliver?
Well, I'm pretty sure at least the audience will be mixed on that one with how many instances that we did see and how tough it was to overtake. But that battle with Joshua Rogers making his way through the field and trying to challenge the veteran that is Martin Kroenke, I think that's a storyline, a great storyline in and of itself. And it just sets the stage now for what would be, I think, a brilliant event come Spa, where it's a little bit easier to find your way by some other drivers. That's when we'll see the cream rise to the top, as we all say.
Yeah, and Paul, next time out we do go to Circuit Spa-Francorchamps. That will be in a few weeks' time, of course, here on the iRacing Esports Network. And, well, Spa, I mean, the thing about Spa is, of course, it will be the longest track that we go to all season long. So it's a very different feel to Mid-Ohio, but that will mean qualifying, you get one shot on one opportunity.
Yeah, these drivers, they know this circuit better than pretty much the rest of the circuits on iRacing, because they've raced here so often, and with these cars it will really suit these cars well to the ground. So make a note of it in your diaries. 11th of May, you don't want to miss that action. But definitely Spa-Francorchamps, it's a challenge. You've got different sectors that give different feels. You've got the high speed of the 1st and 3rd sectors, but then the technical middle sector as well. So see who that suits when we get there as we take a trip on down into the forest.
Yep, so after 2 races in North America, we are heading ourselves over to Europe. We're heading ourselves in to the glorious month of May, the greatest month of motorsports for the year. And also, we head ourselves into 4 weeks worth of back-to-back World Championship broadcasts on a Saturday. Also in 3 weeks' time, we've also got the iRacing Indianapolis 500 as well. So still a lot to come here, as this has been the 2nd round of the Porsche Esports Super Cup. Before we go, just want to give a shout out as ever to Isran Balao, TrackCams22.com, to And1 Design for graphics work, and to Apgineering.com, Apgineering even for ATVO, the graphics package that you know and love. Apgineering.in is what I meant. But that is all we have got time for here on the iRacing Esports Network. Well, a Coanda driver was victorious in both races, but this time it wasn't Josh Rogers. It was a return to form for Martin Kroenke. Congratulations to Kroenke. Now $1,000 richer as we say goodbye from Lexington, Ohio. Goodbye from the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course.